The best kind of villains are the people you know and love.
I'm not a vampire, but I play one on TV.
It was all in vampire face. I looked in the mirror and I smiled. I mean, you know, that's pretty scary.
All the creatures seem to be kind of variations of all the classic monsters. We had the Frankenstein, we had the werewolf, the mummy, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and we're trying to do the Buffy version of all these classic monsters.
Second season was really about playing the interpersonal relationships, playing the soap opera of the show more than just the monster of the week. That's why we introduced villains who were a little bit younger and could really interact with ours.
Close your eyes. Darla is the vampire who made Angel a vampire, so I view myself as his mother and lover all rolled into one. I come back in a flashback to reveal how I picked him to be a vampire. You know, Darla was looking for a playmate.
I always wanted to see the world, but...
I could show you.
Could you then?
Things you've never seen, never even heard of.
Sounds exciting.
She really is like one of the worst demons in killing. She loves to kill and she loves the hunt. She loves to drink blood and it's all very sexual to her. And she wanted somebody else that she could create to have fun with.
Do I sense a plan, darling? Share.
Angel kills her and comes back to the fold.
Angel. He was the most vicious creature I ever met. I miss him.
The Master was our big villain, season 1, and our first season was really 12 episodes. It was a half a season. We liked this idea that he lived in an underground church, and he was a vampire, but he was such an evil and such an aged vampire that he, in fact, looked more monstrous than the average vampire. He was very wonderful, and he had a nice way of moving. You know, he sort of glided through the rooms, and he had that terrible, ugly, you know, bald, white face, and he was a wonderful actor. Mark Metcalf, whom I don't know if everybody remembers Niedermeyer from Animal House, but I did the minute his name came up for this part. And you know, a lot of our villains have a tremendous sense of humor, and that's important to us.
What do you think? 5.1?
If your villain isn't funny, eventually you're going to go, that's a guy in vampire makeup, if he doesn't have some self-deprecating or self-aware quality.
When we initially designed the Master, it was Joss's intention to make him more advanced than any of the other vampires would be. And that got us into this kind of mindset that somehow this vampirism in his mythology was some kind of disease that you progress into and you have different stages of. So we actually developed a series of drawings, I think 6 or 7 drawings that show the differing degrees of vampirism. And as you turn more and more into a vampire, the features become more bat-like and more pronounced. And the Master so far has been the most advanced version of a vampire that we've done.
And in this time shall come the Anointed.
The Anointed One, a little child, and he was introduced in an episode. It said that 1 will rise and 7 will fall, and so you were supposed to believe that there's one very big, hideous vampire was the Anointed One, and instead it was this little kid. And after the Master was gone, the Anointed One was sort of running things in the local hellmouth of Sunnydale. And when Spike came to town, they just hated him because Spike wasn't one for all the big liturgy and religiosity of the whole vampire scene.
Home sweet home.
And eventually he just threw the kid in a cage and strung him up into the sunlight and set him on fire.
From now on, we're going to have a little less ritual and a little more fun around here.
A slayer with family and friends. That sure as hell wasn't in the brochure.
You'll kill her, and then we'll have a nice celebration.
Yeah, a party.
Yeah, with streamers.
Spike and Drusilla, they were fashioned after Sid and Nancy, actually. That was our template for them. Punk, rebellious, snarly, bad attitude vampires. You know, just really developed into characters that we wanted to have around. And great, great fun to write for. Their language.
I'll give you a seed if you sing.
The bird's dead, Drew. You left it in a cage and you didn't feed it, and now it's all dead, just like the last one.
Drusilla was fun just because you could go really loopy and really kind of surreal, and Spike is fun just because he's got such a wicked sense of humor.
Well, this is just neat.
Spike, he worked on so many levels. Every time he had a scene with someone, they were brought up to a new level, and they were like, when do I get another scene with Spike? Because, you know, he has so much attitude, and as an actor, he's so giving, he really wants to get in there and work. Juliet is wonderful. I think the character of Drusilla, though, is so much in her own world that her interaction with other characters isn't the same as Spike's. He's constantly reacting to what's going around him, and in a way that nobody else on the show does.
I said, shut up!
If I kill you now, you go quick, and Drew hasn't got a chance.
Spike is a real, you know, rough and tumble guy. You know, he's a cockney, he's a street fighter.
So, who do you kill for fun around here?
Sometimes it feels like, man, I'm being written so goofy. And we have to remind ourselves, no, that's Joss. Joss is a bit Chekhovian in that way, in that people are lovable fools. Joss is more interested, it feels like, when people are fallible and funny and foolish and dear.
Sunnydale's cursed for us. Angel and the Slayer see to that.
I've got good games for everyone.
Gave us a chance to see vampires who actually have affection for each other, who can really show the intricacies of vampire relationships, which are as complicated as human relationships.
Darling, are you going to eat something?
I'm not hungry. I miss Prague.
You nearly died in Prague.
James and Juliet played it so well and played each other so well that, you know, we kept that going throughout the season. They really clicked.
It was like sort of an actor's dream of playing with each other in the moment. And in the first episode when we're introduced and we come in, we just had this moment where
we did this thing. We were like this.
We were lingering,
we were like almost kissing.
And then we turned out.
Me and Drew, we're moving in. Drusilla and Spike have been together for 120 years, and they have sustained a romantic love for that long, and which is kind of inspiring, really. It is in the contrast between the fact that they don't have souls and they seem to be pure evil, and they also seem to have this incredible love that is even deeper than something we may be able to understand.
Now all we need is the full moon tonight, and he will die, and you will be fully restored, my black goddess.
They have a very, very rich romantic life, and probably a bit twisted sexual life.
They had quite an arc planned for the character, and really did want these two characters, Spike and Drusilla, to be the sort of villains for that season.
Happy birthday, Buffy.
I like to say she's touched.
Do you like daisies?
She is evil. She is diabolical. She is becomes strong because she starts out weak in terms of physically weak, but strong in terms of her desires.
Drew, save me some.
You know, there was sort of this drug analogy running throughout, and the nature of the relationship with Spike, which balances out all of these villainous things that we do.
Do you love my inside? The parts you can't see?
Eyeballs to entrails, my sweet.
And in season 2, you see both that love set up very clearly and then completely ripped apart by the end of it. And so you're able to explore two characters who might have just been kind of Frankenstein villains and explore, God, revenge, betrayal.
They are palpable representations of the things that we face in everyday life.
You get the hell away from my daughter.
It's not enough to get your butt kicked by Buffy on the show, right? It's got to be your mom that finally gives you the death blow, yeah.
Where they're just sitting there having a little tea. That's one of my favorite moments.
There's just some sort of chemistry between Joyce and Spike. They're supposedly so different, and yet somehow they really, those few times that they come together, really relate to one another.
Well, Spike maybe he just needs a mom. Maybe sometimes he just needs some chocolate milk and a little mom's love.
go, cutie.
I believe Spike was supposed to be killed off.
I'm good.
But we loved him far too much for that.
Don't worry, dear heart. I'll see that you get strong again.
Inca Mummy Girl was the first episode I did. Inca Mummy Girl, who's this beautiful woman who kisses people. When she kisses them, I believe she kills them and steals their souls. She's about to kiss me, and right before she kisses me, Xander yells something, and she spooks away, and I run off, realizing that perhaps something odd is going on. See, it's a tricky thing, because if she would have kissed me, I would have been killed, and I never would have been on the show again. However, this is a very attractive woman, so it could have been nice. I don't know. I guess it worked out best for me.
Just don't mind the phallic imagery, I guess I would say about Reptile Boy. You know, yes, it's a metaphor.
No woman speaks to him.
You don't want her. Look at her. She's all skin and bones. Half an hour later, you'll be hungry.
Well, Reptile Boy was a show that I wrote and directed, but of course I broke the story with Joss. And he had a notion of we should do a frat house party episode. And we should, you know, be so bold as to have such a slim metaphor as to say these bad frat guys literally worship a giant snake that lives in their basement and gives them power and money and glory.
Reptile Boy was a great episode. God, it was hell. In that cave, because of the mold and all the stuff that went into making the set, which was phenomenal.
It was interesting to be locked up, chained up in a dungeon, but I'm glad those days are over.
Young men are the only way to go.
Cordelia has gone through this entire ordeal in which she is kidnapped by these college guys, and so she decides at the end of the episode that she's going to date younger guys, and that's me, Jonathan. And I'm not the smoothest cat on the planet with her, on or off the set. I'm very just awkward.
Thank you, Jonathan. Did we forget something?
Cinnamon, chocolate, half calf, non-fat. Extra foam.
It was one of our first really big monsters, and Jeff Pruitt, the stunt guy, worked with John Volich and the rest of the makeup department to design this sort of hideous giant snake.
Showtime. Ethan Rain, an old friend, actually, of Giles's. Hello, Ethan. Hello, Ripper. Friend is maybe too strong a word, but they were friendly at one point. They created a cult that called up a demon that actually killed one of the group. And Giles, at that point, horrified, left and went back to being a watcher.
Something's coming, Buffy, and whatever it is, I can guarantee it's not good.
First of all, he opened up a side of Giles we had never seen. And second of all, he's sort of a great sort of utilitarian problem maker. When we want something to go wrong for no apparent reason, you have Ethan, and because he worships chaos.
You're dealing with something very dangerous.
But it will get Igon off my scent. The second episode I did, The Dark Ages, which actually followed up on the Cult of Aegon, which is this devil that Giles, Ripper as I call him, and I had conjured up many years before. It's your time. And I pulled the Aegon back into being, into this world, and he was chasing the rest of the cult.
I've been waiting a long time to do this.
The whole thought behind the Dark Age was really just when you try to cover up your past, when you try to run away from it, it's going to blow up in your face and it will impact the people around you. And that's why we took a demon that would possess Jenny Calendar so that she would be physically corrupted by what Giles had done.
Was it good for you? In Halloween, I'm a costumier, or I'm pretending to be a costumier, and the costumes that people buy from me dictate the characters that they become. People like to be frightened. It jolts them out of their complacency.
Time to run.
This very sort of plain and sweet-looking guy walks into a house and we hear a blood-curdling scream is always, you know, the most fun. And then to justify it basically with, you know, him turning into a bunch of goopy worms, which is one of the nicer and grosser things we managed to do.
First, I killed the neighbor, which is a great first impression to make on a show. And then I'm watching Charisma through binoculars from this new house that I've taken over because I killed the neighbor. There are worms all over the place, you know. Clearly I'm watching somebody, I'm gonna be heading over there. I knock on Charisma's door and hold up my little makeup kit, my cosmetics kit, and talk about what I'm offering to sell.
I was wondering if I might interest you in some free samples?
Free?
I'm standing there, and I just instantly convert into worms and fall to the floor and start squirming, which freaks out Charisma and Nikki. And then I reappear and reappear in the house.
He can turn to worms, then crawl under the door, and then rebuild himself and be, you know, in the worst place in front of you. Here. That was really freaky, but I enjoyed it because Xander and Cordelia had a really nice moment where we're fighting, and there's so much sexual tension between the two of them that finally they just have at it.
Moron.
I hate you!
I hate you!
Listen up and answer when I call your name. Buffy Summers?
Patrice is, I think, one of the very few villains we've had who's armed.
She was some sort of creature, but dressed in a cop outfit. She sort of grabs me and puts me in a chokehold and then throws me down. It was all very physical, which was fun. And then at the end of the scene, I'm confused whether like everything just happened and was for real. Was that a demonstration?
Buffy, how about a nice game of Parcheesi?
You know, I wasn't a vampire. I was not a bloodsucker at all. I just wanted people to understand me.
Joss had a great idea for a show called Ted, Buffy's mother's crazed, psycho, part robot, serial-killing boyfriend.
Do you want me to slap that smart-ass mouth of yours? Who's up for dessert? I made chocolate chip cookies.
It allowed John to sort of take his persona and just ossify it, crystallize it to the point where he was a joke, where he was like, you know, a father knows best kind of automaton.
I'm not going anywhere.
May I be excused?
You can go to your room, young lady. That's where you can go.
The first half, you think, hey, Buffy, just relax. Give the guy a break. He's almost too good to be true. And there's something about Buffy that I think she sees her mom reacting to this guy in a different way, and it threatens her. But then there's just something about the guy. He's just too perfect.
You killed him.
We were able to get into the issue of what happens if Buffy kills a guy, you know, a human guy. And even though, you know, he had revealed himself to be genuinely creepy by that point, it was still a human, and so that was something new for her to go through.
What was he, a demon, a giant bug, some kind of dark god with the secrets of Nouvelle Cuisine? I mean, we are talking creature feature here, right?
He was a person. And I killed him.
Don't say that.
Why not? Everyone else is.
To bring him back and show that he was in fact a murderous robot is just fun.
That wasn't plain fair, Missy. You're gonna find hell of a day. Makes you feel like you're 18 again.
You must be that Slayer I've been hearing so much about. Lyle Gorge, pleased to meet you.
Pleasure's mine.
The Gorge brothers, Lyle and Tector Gorge, a couple of wacky vampire brothers out of Texas. And they were these nutty, you know, low-rent vampire brothers who lived in drains and ate rats.
Lyle and Tector actually kind of modeled after characters from the Wild Bunch.
She's so cute and little. You think we can keep her? Well, hello.
I had a dream about a high school class where they gave, where they did basically the thing that happens in the episode. They gave out eggs for people, for the kids to care for, and they turned out to be demon eggs. And I was pitching Joss a bunch of different ideas, and finally said, I also just dreamt this thing that was really weird, and of course that's the one that he thought was the most interesting.
The thing about Bad Eggs I loved was it took, you know, a high school thing, you have to take care of this egg, which is real, and made it hideous and monstrous, and the idea that the egg was evil and sucking out your brain while you were asleep at night.
And eventually the whole town is turned into zombies, and they're worshiping this huge mother. We call it a Bazoar, sort of the mother of all these horrible egg creatures that attach to your spine and make you do their will. And now Buffy, of course, was tough enough to defeat the creature. She has to go deep down into the bowels beneath the school and battle this Mother Bazoar and save everybody from their zombiness.
Mom? Kill them.
It was then I began to realize that Joss Whedon is crazy and will do anything to make his show one of the really the best things on TV. And every week he raises the bar and he tries to do something better and something more.
Here we have one of our, running characters, major characters, turning into a werewolf.
Willow, please. Get out of here!
It was a fun thing to do with the character, and I don't think we had any idea how much it would resonate later on in terms of theme. And, I did a couple of episodes in the next season where we continued to play with the idea of Oz being a werewolf and his relationship with Allison, with Willow.
A werewolf in love.
A young man turning into werewolf is a very strong metaphor for sort of teenage sexuality and the kinds of things that are going on in puberty and all this kind of stuff, which has been explored in movies like I Was a Teenage Werewolf. And in fact, it turned out to be a really fertile metaphor for the next couple seasons.
He'll come again tonight.
I was looking for something that was just creepy on a childhood level, on a really resonant sort of stuck in your bed, pulling the sheets over your head kind of way. I was thinking of Grimm's fairy tales. I was thinking of, the old witch, the ogre, things like that.
Joss kind of went into his little bag of childhood horrors and said, we should do an episode about sort of the boogeyman, the scary thing that only kids see. Joss himself jotted down on paper. He designed that Kinderstadt. And again, it was a very frightening character. He almost seems to come out of your innermost dreams. He's not like, ooh, I'm a scary guy with big teeth, or I'm full of scales, or I'm dripping pus. He's just this guy in this black hat with this white face and the long nose. And, also the way he moves is very creepy.
There were so many allusions in the character. There's sort of a Freddy Krueger. There's sort of a Nosferatu. You get a bunch of different monsters rolled into this new thing that was created for the episode.
The idea of something who looks somewhat like an old man that preys on children is just scarier than, anything that burbles or squeaks, because what we really fear when we're little, is age and the otherness of old people.
Diana, bring about this love and bless it.
I'm sort of dabbling in witchcraft. I am casting spells on some of my teachers, so I don't really have to do some of my homework. And Xander catches me and then proceeds to blackmail me into casting a spell on Cordelia.
I want the Hellmouth to be working for me. You and me, Amy. We're gonna cast a little spell.
I want Cordelia to like me again. But I think what happened was that Cordelia did this spell kind of flip-flopped. Everyone loved me, but Cordelia hated me.
Well, Buffy also falls head over heels for Xander under the spell. And she and I have a head-to-head, and she challenges me for Xander. So she then punches me, and I turn her into a rat.
Buffy,
But then later up, she comes up nudie.
I seem to be having a slight case of nudity here.
But you're not a rat. So call it an upside.
So I got changed into a rat. And I have been eating a lot of cheese ever since then.
Go Fish was our steroid episode in the sense that the idea of athletes taking steroids and how it messes them up. And, you know, basically it was what if steroids turned into a great big fish? We were playing on the creature from the Black Lagoon. We just took a great old movie monster and had some fun with it.
Make them dark, make them wet. Wet is always scarier than dry. That sort of glistening sort of ickiness to them that makes them like genuinely like fish, which can be really creepy.
He's perfect, my darling. Just what I wanted.
The judge was cool because he had a different power than a lot of our villains. He was able to burn the humanity out of people. If he touched you and you had humanity in you, it would burn you from the inside out. So sort of the threat there was the better the person you were, the more he could harm you.
The judge? He couldn't be killed, yes? An army was sent against him. Most of them died. But finally they were able to dismember him, but not kill him.
Reassemble the judge?
Bring forth Armageddon.
The judge is going to try to end the world. And I think it's then that we find out that Spike doesn't really want the world to end. Spike likes having Happy Meals walking around. He likes being able to take things when he wants it. He's at the top of the food chain.
You.
Oh. What's that, mate?
You two stink of humanity. You share affection and jealousy.
Yeah? What of it? Do I have to remind you that we're the ones who brought you here?
I need contact.
No. No.
The judge was a dinosaur, which went along with his rather reptilian features. A person who had been awakened from centuries of entombment and pieced back together by Spike and his cohorts, and didn't really understand that technologically weapons had changed, and which led up to his very, very hysterical demise when he was looking at the rocket launcher that Sarah was holding.
What's that do?